Hey, cunts, don't forget to click the subscribe button.
It's a different world now. But the Germans are the closest to the preparation that I used to do. They're the closest. And I'm more prepared than they are. Because I learned in selling, you don't want to, if you don't know the answer, you say, I'll get back to you. I never got back to anybody. Because time I said that and I got back to him, only bad things can happen. I want all the fucking information on the table right then so we can make a decision. That's how you sell life insurance, at kitchen tables. There wasn't a life insurance man worth his salt that ever said, by the way, sir, I'll get back to you on that. Right then and there. I've seen the sun go down in kitchens, and I've seen the fucking sun come up. But I'm staying there until I sell you. And you can't do that unless you got all the information. Other question? Yes, sir.
It's like the key quote of the seminar is, I don't have a clue about home care. I think that's...
He doesn't. He still doesn't. He's got 170 people depending on him to eat, employees, and he doesn't know shit. But don't bullshit people like you know shit, though. You know, that's why he's, again, I'm a chairman, but we've got 300 years of experience on the board. About 285 years, 82 jillion deals. I mean, and the other guys are much better board members than I am. I mean, they really know their shit. They really know their shit. And I'm not saying the German boards are the most prepared, because they're all Germans except for one Englishman and myself. All the rest are German. But the Germans take the shit seriously, you know. They didn't come up with the V2 rocket and all that shit by accident. That just, you know. But he's doing, when he stops his full-time job and he's able to, his other full-time job, I mean, he's just going to he's going to crush it. He's crushing it now. You know, he's going to, whatever beyond crush is, I don't know what the words. But the kids would say, you know, he's doing awesome now. I don't like that word so much, but yes, sir.
The second, third, fourth deal and so on, they seem to come a lot faster. Do you think
they do, because you're not making the same mistakes. Even when you practice, you're still making errors. But now you can, if you remember what Roberto said, he said, you know, because when the presentation you made before, you know pretty much what they're going to ask the next time. Well, he knows now 95% of the things that he's going to be asked by the potential sellers. So he covers them now in his presentation. So he's added those gaps, the gaps that Roberto talked about. And now, I mean, I had forgotten, even though I've heard this before, obviously, but I had forgotten that he walked him through the presentation, the bank. He knows the material. Now, he couldn't have walked the bank through on the first deal, but now he can. And of course, now, you know, I have 6 or 8 or whatever it is companies in my portfolio. That gets everybody's attention. It gets easier and easier and easier. Now, they used to tease me. Towards the end of my active career, I'd be like Jesse James into the banks without a gun and without a mask. And I was. And with the greatest respect, the Brits are pretty easy to take money from, compared to New York bankers. Texas guys are pretty easy. The toughest markets on the planet are New York City. For everything. They make life hard. And now look with them. They're begging. The governor's begging. Some would say, fuck them, they deserve it. I wouldn't say that, New York. You were good to me, New York. But he's just a regular guy, right? And they tell me he's much smoother in German. I don't know that for a fact, but you don't have to be much smooth. And when you're too smooth, then they get hinky, like they were when they told me that I should learn how to stutter because I was too smooth. And they get easier and easier and easier. And he's on a roll. And he's going to make hay while the sun shines, as they say in America. And again, I say it again, I don't hope Corona lasts 25 years, but if Corona lasts 25 years, every fucking thing on the planet's going to be owned by a QLA bot. And we're going to leave them for dead. We'll let them swim in their own fucking blood. Because this is fucking war. We're not fucking around here. Anything? Yes, sir.
The best strategy when you're speaking to the top person in the bank, normally the receptionist pick up the phone.
Well, I mean, you're not going to talk to the CEO of the bank. You mean the CEO?
Yeah, any person on the top.
No, remember. Call up, hi, blah, 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 the operator. And how can I direct your call? Healthcare. They put you to a business development guy. All the banks have business development, and they have quotas, and they have check boxes and forms and scripts, just like you. And you ultimately get to the business development guy, healthcare that's in your vertical, home health, whatever, dental, whatever. But now the meetings aren't in person there. Now, I have the banks come to my lawyer's office. I have the banks come to my accountant's office. That's going to happen again. I don't know when. But in the meantime, you're doing it on Skype or you're doing it on Zoom or some reasonable facsimile. But you want at the meeting, and we talk more about it tomorrow, but you want at the meeting people that are decision makers. And if it is a committee, you want the whole committee there. How many people? There's 3 of us. I said, well, fine. Well, then could you get back to my secretary and tell us when all 3 of you are available for a Zoom call? All 3 of you. And you want them to make a verbal commitment on the Zoom call. How do you like it? And it's in the script. How do you like the deal? Yeah. And if they don't like the deal, what can we do to change this to make it acceptable to you gentlemen? Right then. You don't let them off the hook unless you get a yes or no. No, and then even a no, you come out. What about it could it make it a yes? And normally it's 99.9999%, even with a world-class board, it's about them getting over the no equity in the deal. Them getting over that hurdle. And it's a big fucking hurdle. And some bankers that you're going to talk to will have never done a deal where you didn't put up equity. Never in their 20-year, 30-year career. Never. It's unheard of. Most of your board members, unless they've been on a board, a QLA board, have never been involved in a deal where somebody didn't write a big fucking check to get the thing rolling. Never. So you got to convince your board first before you're going to convince the goddamn banker. But now you can talk to 5 bankers in a day, easy. No problem. No problem. But you got to contact the bankers. I mean, I got another email from a hitter, a Hall of Famer. He's not coming back in. He asked me, am I coming back in? If you're going back in, Dan, I want to be on that train with you. I've had 4 or 5 people contact me about that. I mean, let's rape them. 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Boom, they're off of their heads. But I'm not going to do that because then I'm competing with you. And I'm not going to compete with you because there wouldn't be any competition now, would it? What I would do is I would find the deals you're trying to do and I would take them from you right at the close. Right at the close. I'd snatch victory from your mouth of defeat. Yeah, go ahead.
He said he had two people managing the 8 different centers for him.
Correct.
Did he employ them externally or
Now,
from
one he employed, that's a good question. For an accountant, he comes up with some good questions. They're all by accident, I understand that, but he comes up with some good questions. The one he had, he turned one of the managers into a regional manager, and he hired another lady. Now, most of these home health are going to be owned by nurses a lot of times. Nurses, the docs don't own too many home health. They own the higher food chain stuff. The higher food chain. But nurses or physiotherapists or something like that. Or a couple, the husband's a nurse and his wife is a physiotherapist or something like that. Anything else about Andreas? Yes, sir.
Not exactly about Andreas, but
Okay,
I was
whatever.
thinking once you've done a couple of deals, I want to speed up the process. You hire a couple of guys actually to be like the first catchers of deals. Who do you hire? Some experienced merger and acquisition guys?
No, wait. You're saying you're going to hire such and such to speed up the deals? What did you say?
Yeah, to do the cold calling and
No!
research.
That will not work. You don't believe me, it will not work. Because they're not talking to the principal. Principal meaning the owner. We've tried that 100 times in 27 years. It never has worked. The seller wants to talk to the buyer, not some fucking call center, not your assistant. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Or it takes a long, long time. We're slam, bam, thank you, ma'am. Other question? Oh, sir.
Speaking of New York City, it's very difficult, also highly lucrative, depending on
Correct.
personality, and also in chaos. What would your suggestions be vis-a-vis a QLA mentee leaving here, diving into New York City currently?
Well, I mean, terrific. Because I won't say everything's for sale, but almost everything's for sale. I mean, almost everything's for sale. And I hadn't really thought about it for the guy, Hong Kong. I mean, I hadn't really thought about that. You know, the Hong Kong, everything's for sale. They're giving shit away. And he obviously looks the part, right? Not being racist, but he looks the part. You know, he speaks the language, right? I mean, until we mentioned it, I go, fuck. I mean, they're giving businesses away in Hong Kong. Giving them. Take over my lease. And then the first thing you do is you go and renegotiate it. Back taxes, pay my back taxes. The first thing you do is go to the government and say, I'm taking this business over, can you give me a payment plan? I mean, it's a no-brainer. I'm glad you mentioned it. And if Trump decides not to drop the hammer on Castro, well, I mean, and you speak Spanish? Now, Sally and I went down to visit it 3 years ago. I wanted to see with my own eyes. Fuck. I mean, it's like, other than the main street they take everybody down, it's hell. Buy shit for pennies on the dollar. But if Trump does what he's threatening to do, then you're fucked when you're down there. So if Trump decides to embrace, now as soon as Castro dies, the brother, then I think the attitude of Americans or the American politicians will change towards Cuba. But I mean, it's a no-brainer. Just like we talked about Portugal, speaking Portuguese. For those of you that have that advantage, I mean, you got to use it now. Yeah.
It's continuation on the New York topic.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you have, obviously there's one guy there, we've got two. There are a lot of mentees of yours in New York City.
No, maybe 5.
Good.
They didn't leave New York because it was so hard, but the aggressive guys, rather than having to fight with other aggressive New Yorkers, they go to Iowa, they go to Florida, they go to Mississippi, they go to, South Carolina. Because in general, New Yorkers just want to be a pain in the ass. From the taxi driver to the guy that carries your bags to your fucking hotel room. Now nobody's carrying any bags to the hotel room now, but they're hard ass. You give a guy a $20 tip in New York, he looks at you. He looks around and he looks at his hand, he looks at you again. Then I take the money back. Get out. Fuck you, little shitbag. Yes, sir.
Mexico.
Mexico, same. Speak Spanish? Yeah, un poquito. Yeah. Yeah, where you have that event. Now, if you speak Russian, forget about it. I mean, it's hard. The Russians are hard. The Russians are New Yorkers on steroids. Plus, they pretend not to speak English. So, when you have that advantage, because you want to go where there's chaos, i.e., let's go back to Hong Kong. There's absolute chaos. Beijing's not going to lose that fight. That's just not going to happen. That's a given. Beijing's not going to get, okay. And that's why people are leaving Hong Kong. They're leaving Hong Kong by the droves. And now we got Corona. So you got a double whammy there. I was told, I was in Hong Kong when the British handed over the flag to China, 1997, I think it was. I was there, and the then mayor of Hong Kong, who's a Brit, who I knew, he said, China will never uphold this agreement. It may not be 20 or 50 years from now, but they're going to take it back and put it under their umbrella sooner or later. And, I'd forgotten that he said that to me. And now here we are, 20 plus years later. Andres makes it sound simple, right? Because it is. Because it is. And he talked about the 19-year-old kid, which I got nothing to do with. He's not the 19-year-old kid's chairman. He's helping the kid. And they met at Rotary, I think. No, not Rotary. What? Toastmasters, excuse me. They met at Toastmasters. Because the kid's going to Toastmasters because on my website it says, in Dummies, QLA for Dummies, it says to go to Toastmasters. So that's what the kid's doing. And since that, 2 weeks ago, the kid is now added lawyer, big-time law firm, and he's going around interviewing banks. And he's got some very prestigious guys on his board. And you could see or sense the surprise even in Andreas's voice. And he's got in Germany, the qualifications are everything in Germany. He has no qualifications. He left school when he was 16. And then he was a net scammer for 3 years, I think he said. Which isn't too much qualification for anything. Or the net, e-commerce on the net operates on the greater fool theory. There's a bigger schmuck than you that'll buy your shit. There's always a bigger schmuck, a bigger idiot, a bigger moron that'll buy your shit. Any other questions about Andres? Okay, yes, sir.
How chaotic is the German and
Austrian? No, it's not. COVID has made it chaotic in Germany. I don't know what's going to happen when Merkel ends her career here in a few months. So I don't know the answer to that. But I do know there was a study done, this is 10 years old, 2010-ish, that there were more, they call the niche market. What do they call the middle market? The middle market, like from $500,000 to $5 million euro businesses of any other European country, there were more in Germany. And that's your market in the beginning. And Andres is following exactly the size of the deals. I'm sure he's going to have at least a half a dozen more deals before the new year. And he'll have 300 employees, 350. That's a little financial analyst, that, you know. And again, he's candid about it. I don't know anything. And I still, when he says it, I turned and looked at your face, and you still don't believe it. You still don't believe it. It's true. It's true. It's really a sad commentary on the human race that it's true, but it is true. That you can go with no money, not a penny, into an industry you don't know a fucking thing about, and walk away with 20, 50, 80, $100 million in 2 or 3 years. There's something not right about that. I mean, even I say that, and I've been doing it for 50 years. But there's something immoral about that. It shouldn't be. Thank you. But it is. And that's why there's not more competition. I mean, there should be 1 million people doing this. 10 million. But they're not. And maybe 1 million started, but after they make the 15th cold call, they quit. Those who stay focused the longest win at this game. Focus the long, and you follow the steps. Not like, unfortunately, most of the March kids have done. In hindsight, I did you a disservice. I shouldn't have given you the fucking shit. But I wasn't sure there was ever going to be another seminar, so that's why I gave it to you. But I knew you were going to fuck yourself. I knew it. Just like I took a shit this morning and I knew it. Because in each one of you, in your different way, looked for a shortcut. And this is the only game in town that I've ever participated in. There are no shortcuts. It's the long, hard, you climb to the... Now, I got to 18,900 feet on Mount Everest in a helicopter. I didn't climb. But the helicopters only can go to 19,000 feet because of oxygen, blah, blah, blah. And when Sally and I, it's online someplace, and Sally and I get out of the helicopter, and our pilot has got oxygen, and Sally and I don't have oxygen. We get out of the helicopter, and God damn. So I leaned on Sally and says, is the ground moving? No, it's 19,000 feet, no oxygen. And so we took our photos, and then Sally and I staggered back to the helicopter and got in. But there was no shortcut to the top, because I said, I'll pay 10 grand, 50 grand, I'll pay 100 grand, let's go to the top. The helicopter won't make it, Mr. Peña. It won't make it. But there's no shortcuts in this. You got to do it the old-fashioned way. Anything else about anything, about Andres or anything? We're going to start talking about affirmations and goals now. Any other questions? Okay, bye-bye, YouTube.